Brandon's one that we think incredibly highly of. One of my favorite just guys around our building, the way he approaches the game. He's a competitor, he's a warrior, plays with such a physicality, and then he's got a flair for making plays when it mattered most. And he's served us very well as a franchise. And, I think we've got a nice track record of extending the players. And Brandon's a guy we want to keep around for a long time.
Lynch is coming. Purdy has it picked up. Throws. Aiyuk. Good catch. Wants Aiyuk here. He's got him! He beats Dean, and he takes it the distance. Out of time. Steps into one. Launching deep, going for Brandon Aiyuk. It is. Oh, he caught her off the rim. Still looking to go deep. Has Brandon Aiyuk. Here's Purdy. Looking, firing end zone. Caught! Aiyuk! Touchdown!
Okay, all this Brandon Aiyuk trade discussion, rumors, talks about are the 49ers going to move on from him? They're listening to trades. He's going to be a Steeler. It's just getting out of control and driving me absolutely nuts. Had to jump on here, give my 2 cents, and also just kind of put things into perspective in terms of the current situation and the likelihood of the 49ers actually moving on from Brandon Aiyuk. So with that being said, let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Ryan Tigey, back in action. Had to jump on here. I'm going to make this real quick, but my God, are people freaking out and generating a lot of noise about Brandon Aiyuk and his future. So whether you like the Niners or you don't, I'm just going to put a little facts into this equation just so everybody understands the situation, and parceling through a lot of the information I'm seeing, trying to figure out what's actually real and what's not. First off, I will start off by saying this. We all know Brandon Aiyuk, the entire NFL knows, is an unbelievable receiver. He's a complete receiver. He's unbelievable at catching the ball, running routes, getting separation, blocking, which I think makes him more unique, along with his physicality, etc. No questions asked. BA is a fucking stud. Secondly, this is just a fact. The 49ers still have Brandon Aiyuk under contract, which puts them in the position of power and the ones with 90% of the leverage in this entire situation. Because hypothetically, if things got worse between their talks of signing a long-term deal, not only could they make him play on his 5th-year option, but then what could they do next year? They could franchise tag him. And then after that, they could franchise tag him again. Obviously, that'd be getting expensive, but needless to say, the 49ers are in the driving seat for the Brandon Aiyuk contract, for keeping him on the team, and that does not get talked about enough. A lot of the things that I'm seeing, it's just, oh, Brandon Aiyuk, he's getting traded to the Steelers. It's a done deal. It's already happening. Now, what started all of this? I would say things really started popping off when Brandon Aiyuk sent a whatever tweet onto X about him and Mike Tomlin looking alike, which at first caught me as super random. But after thinking about it for a little bit, you know what it is? It's a negotiating tactic. Brandon Aiyuk is playing chess in this bitch. Brandon Aiyuk knows by saying something monotonous, irrelevant, hey, Mike Tomlin, people say we look alike, that will immediately generate buzz because he is tweeting at a head coach of another team. No idea if there's a relationship between them two in the past or if this is just completely out of the woodwork. But nonetheless, I would assume that they would have some type of relationship, but maybe not. Mike Tomlin obviously is a legend in the NFL, players coach, all that good shit. But what has this done for Brandon Aiyuk since that happened? it has generated an immeasurable amount of discussion, which the vast majority of this trade smoke is coming from. It even gotten to the point where beat writers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, like Mark Kaboli, who I think is a beast in his own right, are writing about Brandon Aiyuk's tweet and how a tweet about do we look alike is turning into, oh, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are trading for Brandon Aiyuk. It will transform their receiver room. Would Brandon Aiyuk, let's say if it's not a negotiating tactic, Brandon Aiyuk, do you really want to go play for your quarterback being Russell Wilson? Really? Their offense in the Pittsburgh Steelers have been atrocious for ever since Seven retired, Ben Roethlisberger. And now I get it. They've brought on a new staff. Arthur Smith, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, is now the OC. He's been an OC before, has had success. But Russell Wilson, really? Okay, yes, they got Justin Fields as well too, but it's already been confirmed. The Steelers have told Justin Fields it is Russell Wilson is QB1. So number one, I don't even think that's an ideal quarterback that you would want to go play for, let alone for a team that has been overwhelmingly known for their entire history of their organization as a defensive team. Just think that is kind of stating the obvious about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, going back to my negotiation tactic and the buzz that it has generated, well, this tweet alone that he put out about Mike Tomlin has gotten 5.2 million views. When you look at his other tweets that he has posted, he looks like he averages around 400,000 to 500,000 views per tweet. This one's at 5.2 million. So exponentially more views than what he historically gets on his tweets. So what has that done? It's got a lot of people talking about him, 2 different fan bases, 2 different organizations. And what does that do? It drives his demand. It's actually a quite genius ploy of a negotiating tactic. Although the Niners already know his value and how important he is, it still just keeps him top of mind in the press and the demand that Brandon Aiyuk has from not only the Steelers, but from around the entire NFL. So I think, again, it was a negotiating tactic and it's worked. It has worked for sure. But my God, has it been so annoying to consistently see like this is already a done deal. Newsflash, it's not. The NFL draft is approaching, and it doesn't help that a recent photo out of the Michigan Pro Day, someone took a picture of John Lynch standing next to Mike Tomlin, who was also standing next to former 49ers coach, Mike McDaniel. So just by them two being next to one another at Michigan's Pro Day, that has further fueled the fire of the rumors of Brandon Aiyuk being traded. We also know Brandon Aiyuk has not requested a trade. So there's just a lot of people making some pretty large leaps about Brandon Aiyuk not wanting to be on the team, Brandon Aiyuk wanting to be traded, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be traded, and it's just flat out fucking obnoxious, and it's wrong. There was also something I noticed that has gotten zero attention, but Brandon Aiyuk, when you look at his recent Twitter, because that's where all this started from, was Brandon Aiyuk posting that shit on X about him and Mike Tomlin. Well, there was also another tweet that he recently liked that was a meme from the SF 49ers Twitter page, basically saying Brandon Aiyuk getting a call from the 49ers saying he's going to get traded, and Brandon Aiyuk denying not picking up their phone call because he doesn't want to get traded. He liked that. So what does that symbolize? That symbolizes he doesn't want to be traded, but yet that's not being talked about because Pittsburgh and all their fans have gotten so fucking loud, and it doesn't help a lot of 49ers people, whether fans or insiders, they keep talking about it. And so again, though he posted that one tweet, he's also liked other things that completely contradict the narrative that has come out from that Mike Tomlin original tweet. And there has been some credible beat writers for the 49ers that have said the 49ers are listening to potential trade talks on Brandon Aiyuk. No shit. How many times have Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch come out and said publicly in press conferences, we will listen to anything. We will listen to anything. Kyle has said it. John has said it. Kyle said he would even listen to trade talks about himself if the 49ers were to get enough compensation back for that.
But if someone blew you away with a trade offer, you would have to consider that. I guess for starters, is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate with every player on our team. I mean, probably including myself. If someone blows us away with a trade for me, I bet you John gets rid of me. So it's,
No.
That's, I mean, definitely.
Bottom line is, what he was emphasizing is it doesn't matter what player. I think literally outside of Nick Bosa, they have publicly stated they will listen to trade talks with anybody. Why? It's good business. If someone wants to give you a massively insane haul that outweighs what you would get from a particular player, and I'm not talking about anyone specifically, it'd be good business to do that trade. Hey, if you're going to give me 3 1s and a 2 for Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers, they'd probably do that. I would still hate it, but they would do that because what they'd be getting back supersedes what they see this player producing for them moving forward. It's not about what they've done. It's about what's going to happen moving forward. So this shit ton of press and media buzz is going around that the 49ers are listening to trade talks about Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah, this happens every year on every NFL team with a lot of superstars and a lot of no-name players as well, too, obviously. But of course, the superstar players are the ones that get the most press coverage about it. So yeah, I think that one is stating the absolute obvious. And for any football fan, whether you're diehard or casual, it's just good business. Why would you not listen? It never hurts to listen. So that means nothing to me about them listening to trade talks. And when you think about it, the 49ers, the way they've operated, they have an unbelievable track record of signing their own guys, specifically the guys that they draft. We've seen it all. I could list all the names, but you guys get it. They've done it with every player they have drafted. They pay the players and they get the deal done. They have never shown us otherwise. It's going to be no different, Brandon Aiyuk, but they do things on a specific timeline table. They're focusing on the draft right now. And when you look back at the most recent deals that they've done, Bosa got done at the very end of training camp. Debo, same thing, got done in the training camp time period. They do not succumb to the pressure from the outside noise of getting a deal done. They do it on their timeline, and they clearly have a process and method in place that fucking works. So unfortunately, for those that are Niner fans, it's probably going to be a while until a deal gets done. And until that deal gets done, just like we've seen through other players, there's just going to be more and more noise, more and more buzz, and frankly, more and more bullshit that gets out there that could have zero validity to it, but it gets a lot of press because that's what people do in the offseason. Brandon Aiyuk I'm pretty sure he hasn't said it publicly, but he has stated that obviously he's going to sit out of training camp until he gets a deal done. Any player that's due for a big contract, especially as big of a contract as Brandon Aiyuk, similar to Debo, similar to Bosa, I personally would not step field in training camp until you have a new contract, because that's where a small margin of leverage comes into play from the player's perspective. And honestly, it's just not worth it. You're talking too much money, potential injury. It's just not worth it. So that is to be expected. And we all know that. But if, okay, and I say that with a capital I, capital F, if the 49ers were to move off Brandon Aiyuk, the cost the 49ers would require would be massive, because what that team would have to do in terms of draft capital and then having to pay Brandon Aiyuk, again, the 49ers are in the driver's seat in any team negotiations that they're dealing with. Because again, the 49ers know the value. They want Brandon Aiyuk on the team. It's not even a question. They've all said it. If we just look back at some of the wide receivers that have gotten traded, let's just kind of take a quick peek at those. Tyreek Hill was traded in 2022 from Kansas City to Miami. Tyreek Hill was drafted in 2016, so he played 6 years in Kansas City. When he got traded in 2022, he got a first, a second, and a fourth in the 2022 draft. Then he got a 2023 fourth and sixth rounder. So Tyreek Hill, who's in this, Brandon Aiyuk is in that same class. Miami gave up 5 draft picks, and he had already been in the league since 2016. Then if you go and look back at Devontae Adams, it was the same year, 2022. The Packers traded Devontae Adams to the Raiders for a first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick in the 2022 draft. Devontae Adams was drafted in 2014. He had played 8 or 9 years with the Packers. So in both of those, Tyreek and Devontae, Brandon Aiyuk is younger, and in both aspects, passing, blocking, he is a more complete wide receiver. And as we all know, the 49ers pass game is a lot less relative to other teams. So it's not a high flying pass all the time offense. So what that does mean is when they do pass the ball, it's a much more important situation for them to have a receiver that they can depend on, which Brandon Aiyuk can do. And when you talk about the run game, Kyle Shanahan's baby, the run game, he becomes that much more significant to the 49ers and somebody they understand he's not easily replaceable. But again, if you just look back at 2 receivers, the most recent that Brandon Aiyuk is in that class, all pro class, look at what those 2 trades have given up. And I think it would side much more towards a Tyreek Hill trade in 5 draft picks versus Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams, again, just much older player. And Brandon Aiyuk is literally entering in his prime. He has gotten better every single year. Every single year Brandon Aiyuk's been in the NFL since 2020. He has had more receiving yards. The past 2 seasons, over 1,000 yards per season. So he continues to arrow up. So that is something that the 49ers take into account when they're talking compensation with potential other teams out there. And something else that I know kind of got touched on a little bit out there, but not much. With all the contracts, all the superstars that they have on their team, Brock Purdy, quarterback, them being able to pay him soon. This is their last season, 100% with the vast majority of their core group. With the way contracts, cap hits, age, injuries, all of that, there's a good chance that the core group of 49er players that we all know and love, this could be the last year that the band is truly together. And we've already lost one band member in Eric Armstead to the Jags. So the 49ers, again, understand this could be an all-in year that they make a significant push to try to finally eclipse and win a Super Bowl championship. And I'm telling you, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they want it more than anybody. So again, they're humans. This all plays a factor into it. Are they more likely to win a Super Bowl with Brandon Aiyuk, or are they more likely to win a Super Bowl with a rookie wide receiver that they draft in the first round with another team's pick? Stating the obvious here, it's with Brandon Aiyuk. And the most important part of it is when you look at Brock Purdy, a young star quarterback, the number one person chemistry-wise that he has is with Brandon Aiyuk. That deep shot that he threw in the NFC Championship game on Detroit Lions, or bounced off that player's face mask and Brandon Aiyuk came up with it. I remember Brock Purdy saying in a press conference following that, when he got asked a question about it, he was like, I knew my guy was out there. Can't say I didn't give him a shot. Something in that effect. He trusts Brandon Aiyuk. Their chemistry is unbelievable. With the anticipation that Brock Purdy has to play with and plays with unbelievable efficiency, he has to trust that receiver is going to be in their spot when the ball needs to come out. And Brandon Aiyuk, time and time again, he proves he's that guy. And when you look at just the roster of the 49ers and all their skill positions, Brandon Aiyuk is the true number one wide receiver on the 49ers. So that makes it even that much more of a pain point for the Niners to lose a guy and try to go find a replacement for a true number one wide receiver that Brandon Aiyuk is, let alone with all the tangibles and intangibles that he has that we've already discussed. But if you don't think they're thinking about the chemistry that BA has with Brock Purdy, you just don't know football. You're out of your mind. So I think when you look at all that things, again, if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say there is a 90% chance he is on the 49ers and gets a long-term deal this offseason. The only way, which would take, in my opinion, a team so desperate to get a receiver like Brandon Aiyuk, that the draft capital that they would have to give up and then pay Brandon Aiyuk immediately upon arrival, it would be a king's ransom, an astronomical amount, because again, the 49ers are in the position with all the leverage when it comes to Brandon and when it comes to other teams trying to pursue to get Brandon on their team. Because the 49ers, they don't have to. They don't have to do anything. All right, y'all. With all that being said, I just had to throw my 2 cents out there. Again, a lot of smoke, a lot of bullshit, a lot of rumors. Steeler fans, I would say by far and away, are the most that are stirring the pot of this. Can't say that I blame them, because who wouldn't want a Brandon Aiyuk on their team? But it's important to understand the probability of Brandon Aiyuk going somewhere else, in my opinion, not that likely. And if he were, the 49ers would be getting an insane amount of draft capital back in that regard. But again, when you consider all these factors, it's just not worth it. It would not be worth it. So, all right, y'all, I'll be back as the draft approaches. Expect more and more rumors, because if something were to happen, the highest likelihood would be before the draft. That's the only way someone could really make it work. It would have to be before the draft this year, which is also probably another factor of why it's getting so much media attention. But I'll be back as I see more and more updates, more and more discussion about Brandon Aiyuk, his future. Just remember, a lot of it is coming from fans and people outside of the 49ers organization or outside the 49ers fans. All right, y'all. Until then, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.